Earlier today on America Talks Live, I spoke with Tennessee Congressman Marsha Blackburn, and I asked her about the state of the race as we come down to the wire, especially when it comes to female voters.
I talk to women every single day, JD, whether they are Republicans, Democrats, or independents. One of the things that they repeatedly say, and I hear this over and over and over, is, I don't agree with everything Donald Trump has said, or even some of his actions, or maybe his demeanor at different times. But what worries them more is what Hillary Clinton has done in the past, and certainly what she will do in the future. And one of the things that has caused so much consternation among women, they look at Hillary Clinton talking about how they were dead broke when they left the White House. Didn't have any money at all. So broke they took $200,000 worth of furniture in China from the White House that, by the way, the White House Historical Commission had to go retrieve. And, now they're worth $250 million. Now, how do you go from being dead broke, saddled with debt in 2001, and then you're worth $250 million by the time you get to 2016? So that takes pretty fancy footwork, and that bothers women a lot because they know you cannot trust her. They know she's not going to be true to her word. They know that she believes you need to have two opinions on every issue, and that is not what they're looking for.
For more on this, I'm pleased to be joined from Newsmax Washington by staff writer for The Federalist, Payton. Bree, I heard from Marsha Blackburn, and I know how capable she is politically, having worked with her on Capitol Hill. So Marsha and others have been out trying to make the case for Mr. Trump. But yesterday, with Melania returning to the campaign trail, is the Trump campaign in a good position to make a persuasive argument to women as they prepare to vote next Tuesday?
Sure. So I think that yesterday Melania brought up a lot of issues that the Republican Party largely ignored. She talks about women who are left behind by the system, women who are concerned about providing health care for their families, women who are facing the real challenges of maternity leave and, figuring out the financial ramifications of having a child. And these are all issues that the Republican Party does largely ignore. So I think that the fact that Melania did bring it up and has been talking about this and bringing these issues, I think is really important, and I think could persuade some women to look in the Donald Trump's direction.
And it's almost as if that message, because she was speaking in Berwyn, Pennsylvania, the Philadelphia suburbs, and again, the Republican members of Congress with whom I used to serve were always concerned, how do I crystallize issues of concern to suburban women? And what you're saying, Bree, is that really Melania opened up a veritable glossary of those issues that had not been addressed heretofore. That argument is interesting, and it prompts me to call on someone who tends to look at things a little bit differently than those of us in the conservative movement. From Newsmax, New York, noted radio and TV commentator Ellis Henican is here. Ellis, we were just talking about Melania Trump making an appeal to women yesterday, and obviously it's tough to get a majority of women when the first woman nominee is on the other side of the aisle. How do you think things are shaping up for Tuesday?
Well, that is true. I mean, Hillary has some advantage. I mean, there are a number of women who think that would be a great thing to have a woman president. Also, Melania is a bit of an interesting and complicated question. I don't have the sense that she's someone who's super relatable to a lot of women. I mean, her life is certainly very different from that of most American women. So whether she can pull some of those suburban women in the Philly burbs over to the Trump campaign, the polls aren't looking good right at the moment, but, maybe she helped a little bit.
Well, before we get to Tuesday, we've got to get through Monday and a disturbing report about a terror threat. Right now, they say the focus is New York, Texas, and Virginia. Talk of Al-Qaeda perhaps launching attacks. Marsha Blackburn again had perspective on our preparedness.
I think that they are watchful, that they are taking everything that they hear seriously. They know they have to be on full alert. And I will tell you, God bless our policemen and our first responders and those that are in the thick of this and in the thick of this fight. It is when you have all of these terrorist cells in every state. We know that the FBI says there exist terrorist cells in each of our 50 states. So this means that all of your first responders and your local police are really on the front line in this war. So I just pray for their protection.
Bree, how concerned should we be about a possible terror attack on election eve?
I think, the fact that we're talking about it and that it's such a highly publicized threat, I think would assure a lot of people to not be so concerned about it, right? If the government is already looking at it and paying attention to it, I think that we're probably going to be okay. But I think, that, however, that she is not wrong, that there are a lot of sleepers in areas that we don't know. And I think a lot of the most deadly attacks that we've had over the past year were on days when the government wasn't on high alert, and they were happening when no one was expecting them, in places where no one was expecting them, right? Like a center for people with mental disabilities in San Bernardino County, which is where I was born and raised, and also at a gay nightclub in Orlando, right? These are areas that are not targets that we would typically think of for terrorism. So I think that there is a very real threat. However, just the fact that, our authorities are on alert on election day does definitely calm my mind. And
Ellis, forgive me if I'm wrong, but if I'm not mistaken, 9/11/2001 was the day of a Democratic primary for the municipal ballot in New York City, was it not?
That's right. We were electing a mayor that day, JD. Listen, well, of course, it's the modern age. I mean, terror is a reality in life, but there are plenty of reasons not to be overly alarmed here. I mean, for instance, in the years since 9/11, more Americans have been killed by lightning strikes than by terrorists, which is not to say one is tolerable or it's not a horrible thing. But please, folks, don't allow yourself to be paralyzed. Don't be nervous going outside. Don't live with fear. I mean, that doesn't make any sense at all.
And I think that's good advice, Ellis, across party lines. People have to live their lives, have to fulfill their civic responsibilities, but terrorism and national security remains an issue. And to that end, I'd like you both to take a look at a new ad from the Victory 2016 committee. It features Patricia Smith, the mother of one of those Benghazi 4 killed in that attack on our consulate in Benghazi. It is a powerful ad. Here's a portion of it.
As Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton faced a life-or-death decision. Strengthen our security in Benghazi or do nothing? Listen as Patricia Smith shares the heartache of losing her only child in Benghazi.
He says that they pulled all the security from him and the ambassador, and there was no one left over there. They kept asking for security, and no security was coming. Thank you, Hillary.
The last word on the screen there about the prospect of Hillary as commander-in-chief, unthinkable. Bree, does this remind everyone of what I guess we can call the deficiencies, whether it's Benghazi, the emails, all the problems of stewardship Mrs. Clinton has experienced at the Department of State?
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, Benghazi was 100% Hillary Clinton's fault. She ignored hundreds of requests for additional security, and she made them stay. She made them stay in Libya when other countries were withdrawing their diplomatic forces due to a known increase of threats in that area at the time, right? And now what she's doing is she's going on the campaign trail, and she has said the past couple of debates, she has said that no one died in Benghazi, no one died in Libya, and she's using Libya as like the crown jewel of her diplomatic efforts during her Secretary of State. And she's ignoring the fact that 4 Americans did die in Benghazi several years ago, and she's ignoring the fact that Libya has since become a hotbed for terrorism. And ISIS has such a stronghold in that area that they're now spilling over into neighboring Tunisia. So I think all things considered, Libya is a complete and total disaster, not just because of Benghazi, but because of the diplomatic situation as a whole.
Well,
and that's 100% Hillary Clinton's
Let's let Ellis
fault.
in on this thing. Ellis, final 45 seconds to you, sir, for the last word.
Yeah, Bree, about two-thirds of what you said is simply wrong. Hillary Clinton has not made Libya the linchpin of her campaign. She wasn't, as the Secretary of State, making detailed decisions about the security at the hundreds of diplomatic outposts around America. That's just a silly church. I am going to restrain myself, unlike Donald Trump, from saying anything critical about the mother of someone who has been killed in such a tragic fashion. But I would point out that maybe the grieving parents, under completely understandable circumstances, are not the folks we necessarily want to take our political guidance from. How about that?
Well, okay, fair enough. We will have to leave it there, but obviously to be continued right on through Tuesday. Ellis Henican, Newsmax New York. Bree Payton, Newsmax Washington. You have our thanks. Now, Hispanics. Are they squarely behind Hillary, or is there diversity within that ethnicity? Ed Berliner investigates when Newsmax Prime continues.